Well, hello everybody. Larry Young here again with another segment of Old Man Living Life with Purity. And today I want to ask everybody, are you ready to take the pledge? Well, what pledge, you may say? Well, there's going to be a lot of pledges you're going to be asked and intimidated into taking coming up here in the next year or so. This is going to be the new playbook, the new form of branding and the identity politics and identity ideology that's being forced on everybody right now by the left, the woke people, the one world order type people that come out of the Obama legacy back in 2007, 2008. Some of that which led to the reorganizing and restructuring of even the Vatican itself under pressure from the rest of the world governments to unseat a sitting Pope, that being Benedict XVI, to rid the world of this conservative value in the Vatican so that they could come in with their series of pledges, if you will, to try to reinvent the talking points, the moral compass, if you will, of the world. And this was all set to try to bring in the one world order, no borders policies, live and let live, LGBTQ, which even led to some of the crazy talking points coming out of the Vatican and the popes themselves. Francis had come to the statement late in his path that homosexual sex is not a sin. Now, this had been started in the United States and in Europe with some of those crazy-ass bishops that they got around the world who are gone woke. They've taken a pledge of fidelity to the LGBTQ communities and not to the gospel. So there's a real messed up group of talking points, and it's not. I'm not just talking about the Catholics in particular, but that's the structure that's the only church that really has structure out there in the world. Nobody really has any kind of governmental or administrative authority and structure like what the Catholic Church does. The rest of them are all very much we'll know it when we see it type of reactions. They don't have policies, and when they do have policies, they vote on them every few years to try to change what their policy is going to be. So this is why the world never really looks to like the Baptist Church or the Lutheran Church for responses when something happens of cataclysmic events in the world. They always look to the President of the United States for comment, and they look to the Catholic Church. Now, as I said in one of my previous podcasts here, that has been diminishing these last 25 years as not only the Vatican has lost prestige in the world through a lot of non-Catholics, and has the presidency of the United States has lost some of its glimmer as far as being the go-to resource for information on what is actually happening. Because so many people have come to understand that people in politics lie. And people in religion lie. And it doesn't need to be that way. And we need to fix it. We need to get back to truth and beauty and try to find a way to correct these things before it is too late. Because I got to tell you, folks, I think the bell is ringing right now for all the kids to come in from recess and get back to classes and get back to learning lessons that they need to know. So let's talk about these pledges. Well, pledges are going to come in all sorts of forms. These are going to be ways that you showcase to others around you that you're one of them and that they're on the right path. And gosh darn it, they're doing good. And so we have a pledge type situation going on in several states right now that has to do with foster parenting. And I'll talk about the state of Massachusetts right now. They've got a law on the books regarding people who can be licensed to be a foster parent. Now, foster parents fill a void in society that adoption doesn't, and that the state does a terrible job at with housing children, orphans or abandoned children, one and the same type of thing. But the state does a terrible job at raising children. And so what the state decided that it was going to try to create more of a large foster parenting program and to call on the good graces of people. Now, by far and away, the most number of people signing up or asking or offering to be a foster parent in the state of Massachusetts are Christians. What type of church they go to, I can't really say, but they establish themselves as being faithful, believing Christian families. And in the state of Massachusetts now, you cannot be licensed to be a foster parent unless you sign a pledge that says that you will raise the child with the pronouns they prefer, let them dress the way that they prefer, let them be a boy or girl if they prefer, without opposition. You cannot try to change the child's thinking. Now, where is the child getting this thinking from? If it's obviously not coming from this Christian-based family, it's got to be coming from outside sources. And these outside sources are the public school system, which says that you are not the owners of your children. We are. And this has been sort of the statement from the Public School Teachers Union, is that they will decide what's best for your child because they know what's best. You're not capable of knowing because you're not educated like they are. This is arrogance on display and in force. This is really messed up. So right now in the state of Massachusetts, you have 34 couples in line to adopt babies. So for every one baby that gets put up for adoption, there's 34 people asking to be the parents of that child. Once the child goes past 2 years old and enters into the foster care system, there are fewer candidates to adopt or foster these children than there are children. So what you end up doing is you end up warehousing these kids, and the state realizes they suck at raising children, so they want to put these kids in with families, but these families can't be Christian. Think about that. Christians are not worthy to be foster parents in the state of Massachusetts unless they give up their Christian beliefs. That's really messed up. And this is just showing the slope that the left is trying to move everything to, which is a non-God-fearing community of people who have made the government now their God. You know, it's kind of funny when the Jews were led out of Egypt and they found safety. One of the first things they did was to melt down their gold and make images that they were going to thank as their gods. And this really pissed off Moses and God himself. And it didn't end well for them. And right now, what the left is trying to do is to get rid of God, and they wanted to create their own God to be adored and to be emulated and to be beholden to. This new God is the AI-generated thought stream, this collective conscience that they want to create. Their new God will be the AI information portals. And they're forming it right now with their own tactical reasoning and things like this. I talked about one of my most recent podcasts. I did a basic search on concentrations of certain populations in certain areas of the country, and then tried to cross that over with in mortgage frauds that were going on to try to see if there's some sort of causal reference point on this, why this was happening. And when I asked the question of AI, I didn't get a response except I got a lecture that asking questions like this was racist, and that asking questions like this was fascist, and all these other types of nasty words they wanted to throw at us. So it wasn't racism, it wasn't fascism, it was an inquiry into factual data and how it relates to one another. But when I tried to get that factual data to interrelate and to come out with some sort of result, I was told to stop my inquiry and to not come back, essentially, as AI could do. This is messed up. This is the programming that's going on. This is why they want your kids stupid. Now, in the public school system, you know, they want all the children to be stupid. So what they really got to do is they got to work on the girls, because boys are born stupid. Just telling you. I mean, they're just born that way. They don't have the empathy feelings and things like this that the women do. It isn't natural to them. They can learn, and they do, and we do. We're not, you know, incapable of growth and maturity and making better of ourselves. But the girls are the target. They go after the girls. They cause problems in their thinking. They cause problems in their, they basically get rid of any kind of reasoned thinking. They have to be reactionary. They can't think about stuff. They just have to react to certain cues. And this is why they get triggered so much. And this is why it's the women are out there leading a lot of these, protests and things like that. The women and the Catholic priests. Well, in a lot of ways, there's not a lot of difference between them because they both think the same way that are out there doing this stuff. And we talked about that. We'll get back into that. But the women are being attacked through their brain and their cognitive responses. And this showed up quite evidently this last week in a televised debate that was going on in the state of Virginia between the two candidates for governor there. One is the Democratic governor candidate, that's a woman by the name of Spanberger, and then the Republican one is a woman by the name of Earl Sears, her last name. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this comes down. Now, I'd said in previous podcasts, when I was talking about Plato's Republic and the shadows on the wall in the cave and that kind of storyline, and I think a lot of you know that. If you don't, it's about when people have to ultimately face the reality and how they respond after they've been raised in a basically a laboratory type setting where they're only given certain information as being the truth. But when they come out, they find out that these false things they were taught are not true, and they have to face it with reality. Their brain can't handle it, and then they want to attack those around them that are trying to bring them into the light and into understanding of things and to disprove their ignorance about things. And ignorance is just a word that means you don't know. You're not aware of these things. You're ignorant of facts. You don't know what the facts are. It's not like you're being intentionally stupid or selective in these things, although you could. But when somebody's ignorant, it just means that they haven't had the right diet of information coming in. They haven't had a well-rounded diet. They haven't had their veggies, so to speak. They've only had the sweet stuff. So in this debate the other night, the question came up for Spanberger, the left's or the Democratic's candidate, to ask about women's bathrooms, women's locker rooms, men and women's sports, things like this. And the proof was really already decided that men and women's sports is not a good thing. and it was never the correct thing. It was always the compassionate thing, but it's a messed up thing, and it creates more victims than it celebrates this person's mental illness and trying to think that they're somebody that they're obviously not. So I've said before, you can't hit these people with facts about things because they are resistant to these things. What you need to do is you need to mock them, because comedy and mocking people helps centralize the normal folks, the people who get the joke, that it centralizes them and allows them to stand stronger in their position of correctness against the idiocy that's coming at them from outside. And so it's the person who is the clown in the argument, the person trying to make these statements about men being women with just an emotional response and thinking, because I think it makes them feel better. Well, feelings and facts aren't the same thing. And feelings will get you killed too many times. So just ask the good people up in Canada who were told to handle home break-ins when people are trying to steal their car by placing their keys by the front door so that robbers just have to break in the front door and take the keys and leave. Hopefully not killing or hurting the occupants inside, because the occupants inside aren't able to protect themselves except if they've got a dog or a bat type of thing. And if they do that, then they're probably going to end up going to prison for abuse of an errant individual who went to the wrong home type of thing. Sorry, I got to get a quick little drink here from my new cool cup. This cup came in from one of the viewers in the Great Smoky Mountains. A real pretty cup. And like I said before, it's got a picture of a bear on the back, and that's what people used to call me when I was a kid. So I kind of like that. Well, you need to mock the liberals and the people trying to justify these positions, and not to bust them down into the ground, but just to laugh at their concepts. And what this does is this helps unbake the brainwashing that's gone on in these people for years. You're not going to turn them around in one soundbite or one moment. It's going to take a consistent diet of basically laughing at them, and they're thinking that these are things. Oh, that's so cute, honey. When you grow up, we'll talk about it some more. These types of things, you just dispel it and say that's just craziness. It's like tooth fairy shit. Trying to think that the tooth fairy is real, and it's okay when a kid is 3, 4, 5 years old. But there comes a time they need to grow up and to not abandon the truth in these situations and not call people out when they're trying to foster this bullshit upon the rest of the society. You have to say, no, that's bullshit. We're not going down that path, and you shouldn't either. Come on back here where it's sane. Get back in here. Let's go build something. So the protesters, well, in this debate the other night, I got to get back to that. Spanberger was asked about men and women's bathrooms and locker rooms and things like that. And it was she was given 30 seconds to respond. She sat there like a deer in headlights and didn't say a word for 30 seconds. All the while, Earl Sears, the Republican candidate, was chiding her, saying, answer the question, answer the question. You can't answer the question, answer the question. And Spanberger just sat there silent because she knew that if she took either side in an answer on that thing, she was cooked. Because the nuts are out of the bag and she can't put them back in. And so she had this moment of being mocked by not saying anything. She basically mocked herself. She became her own meme. And nobody had to do anything except wind her up and let her go. And she went out there and looked like a total fool and basically made the next campaign ad for Earl Sears. All Earl Sears has to do is run the copy of that moment as a 30-second television ad, and people are just going to laugh at this candidate for how foolish she looks. And she's only being made to look foolish by her own errors. Nobody else did it to her. She did it to herself by becoming this sort of tool of the left. And so many of these people have done that, and now they can't get themselves out of the toolbox, if you know what I mean. So it's working. Stay on it. This is all part of knowing who you are and how you're going to respond to these things. So this foolishness that's going on. Don't let it infect you. Be confident. Stand strong. You know, it's okay to laugh at folks. Okay? It's okay. And a lot of them deserve it because these are idiot situations. People say, oh, that's not compassion. That's not empathy. Yeah, it is. It really is. Okay, you just got to, you know, take your mommy pants off for a little bit and pick up a little bit more of a leadership man brain kind of thing, a daddy brain, as we talked about. You know, somebody's got to call the shots. Somebody's got to say no when it has to be said. And we need to stay on this so it's working. So we had a situation just the other day where President Trump and the world leaders all got together in Israel and they signed this peace accord with the Palestinians under Hamas, their leadership. Hamas has to leave the playing field, so to speak. They said they will, but their actions belie what they said. So again, they're lying. You can't trust these folks. If you do, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak and more death and more destruction. They'll just do it again. This is their playbook. Why do I say that? Well, now that we've got this peace agreement that's going on, what are all the protesters in the streets going to cry for now? Whereas before you had all these people in hijabs and keffiyehs out, you know, running around the street who know nothing about what from the river to the sea means, out there calling for free Palestine. Well, now that Palestine is allegedly free, what do they got to craze about? What are they going to go to next? It's going to be interesting to see what the next chant is. They're going to keep coming out with this because they really don't have anywhere to go. They got painted into a corner. The corner got opened up. They were released from their corners. And now they don't know what to do. So they're going to react. And it's like these people coming out of the cave. The truth is going to hit them, and they're going to get angry. They're going to get violent, more violent than they already are. So as this is going on, the Islamist preachers in Iran are calling for more jihad. And they're looking for individuals to offer up jihad. Jihad is not good. No bueno. No good. No jihad. We don't want no jihad. Jihad is bad. So let's not let it get to us here. But so what happened immediately after this peace accord was signed and the world was celebrating this great event? And Hamas was supposed to be shut down, and the Palestinians have to come up with a new governmental agency to represent them because the world has rejected Hamas. Well, most of the world. But they rejected Hamas. So what did Hamas do in that moment as the people in the streets of Gaza and in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and all over Israel were all in the streets and screaming Trump's name, thanking him for stopping things, which he didn't do it on his own, but he gets the credit for it because he's the one that applied the leverage. And so everyone's out in the street praising for Trump, but Hamas is freaking out. So Hamas goes into where these people are celebrating in the Gaza territories. The people who are leading these chants of Trump, 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 they go get the leaders that are in these little uprisings or these little outbursts of enthusiasm. They go and they take all the leaders of these different groups, parade them down into the town square, and cut their heads off in front of everybody. That's a celebration. Why did they do that? Because it's about power. And they don't want to lose power. And they got all these people afraid, living in Gaza. You know, and for the longest time, the narrative was that the Jews were the problem and the West was the problem. When in reality, they're the problem. They're enemy from within, looking to enslave these people for power. Why do the Hamas leaders not even live there? Where do the Hamas leaders live? They live in Qatar, in wonderful mansions. And they dined with the leaders of Qatar. Opulent tables. It's messed up. It's really messed up. You know it, I know it, the world knows it. The only way to keep fighting this, or to keep the steam from increasing on these things, is to mock the situations going on. Stand up, say no. I know what you're trying to say, but, you know, when you grow up and you learn a little bit more, we'll talk. You know, bye-bye. And just ignore them. Because what these people, like a narcissist, the thing that fuels a narcissist is for you to engage them and to fight with them and to let them lead the discussion. They have nothing to talk about that is truthful. Don't let them own the discussion. Walk away. Now, I've been called racist here lately for calling out Muslims for their behavior and things like that. Well, it's not racist to state the facts. It's racist to say that Muslims don't belong here. No one's ever said that. It's racist to say that black people don't belong here. It's racist to say that Italian people, we'll not talk about Italian people because they gave us too much. But it's not racist to talk about these things. It is conversational and it is topical. And so we need to understand not everyone who is a Muslim is an Islamist. Islamists are the radicals. They're the ones who are looking for jihad. Muslims, for the most part, I would say that 50% of them don't really give a shit. They're like a lot of Christians. They're not really in it to win it, but they've got a name and an identity. It comes from the family passed down. But I would say that 50% of the Muslims in this country really just want to find an easy and successful life, and they want to have the trappings that go with that that's easy. They want to have these freedoms. But they don't want to be labeled as what they are, and that is that they are backers of Islam, even though they aren't fully engaged day to day. But if it came down to it, and if an order came out from the leadership in Islam, they would certainly follow. I don't know if you get the same response out of Christians, and I don't know if you get the same response out of all Muslims, but you get a tidy number of them would join in to where it would make it fairly uneasy to try to deal with this if things get ratcheted up more. So one way to look at this is that the basic Muslims out there in their world, in their life and engagement, they're sort of like the grass. You know, there's lots of them. They're everywhere. And in the grass, you know, many times you've ever walked along barefoot in the grass and all of a sudden you maybe step on a bottle cap, you know, barefoot. Ow, that thing hurts. You didn't see it, but it was in there. That's kind of how Islamists are with Muslims. They hide within the grass of the Muslims, and you don't really see them there, but they're there. And this is what's going on in the city of Dearborn. This is what's going on in Minneapolis. This is what's going on in Baltimore. It's going on all places. It's silently leading up. And this is something that needs to be recognized. And I'm hoping that it gets to be recognized sooner rather than later, and that people can come up with a realistic response to these things and how to try to challenge what's going on. Now, back to the mocking. If you watch what's happening in social media and online with debates that are going on, the mask is coming off of the great debate of Islam versus Christianity. And Islam is losing because it's basically the whole concept, and all the writings of Islam are based on fantasies that are taken out of the original Bible. And so they move things around, they change things up a little bit to try to tell their story. And then when their story wasn't working so well, what they did was they brought everything in together and said, bring us all your copies of what we wrote last time, bring it all in, we're going to write a new text. So they wrote a new Quran after they had the original one, and then they moved things around to come up with their new Quran, which basically contradicts itself in many places throughout its own writings. So, but the scholars who are digging deep into this, and I think that too many Christians have allowed the Muslims to say that they're a peaceful religion when they're only peaceful amongst themselves. Anyone else who comes along and wants to be an opposition or have an opposing view on things is many times executed. Look at what's going on in Nigeria right now. You've got people being slaughtered by the hundreds, and no one in the media really talks about it because these are unvaluable black people in the eyes of the one world order folks. And they're Christian. And so the Muslims are coming in and killing these people by the hundreds on a regular basis, and no one's shedding a tear. What's going on? Why are we having this discussion? People say, and Pope Francis was trying to say that all religions lead to God. Who's God? What God? Muslims say we follow the same God Christians do. Nope. Not even close. Different God, different ideals, a different description. Try explaining a triune God to a Muslim. You'll get a lot of blowback. So this is where the first fault in the stars is. So I know this is a lot to take in today, and a lot of people, are going to claim me as being the bad guy, but that's all right. People will thank me in time. They're going to thank a lot of folks who are doing this because it's not easy, and somebody's got to say it because it's going on, and nobody's screaming fire loud enough. So know who you are. Stand on that rock. Don't let them take you down. Don't let them convince you that you're the crazy one. Stay in there. It's going to get tough. It's going to get real tough. This peace deal that was signed in Israel is just going to unleash all sorts of terror cells around the world. Their chant is to flood the world. And if you don't know what I mean by flood, I got a podcast that talks all about that a few back from this one. Go watch it. So this is the cry of Islam, is to flood the world. And they intend to do it, and they're doing it. Look at what's going on in Europe. It's what state right now? I don't know if it's it might be it's one of the Scandinavian countries right now is doing even more now to block free speech and what you can say and how you can say it. The clampdown is coming. It's in force. It's working its way across the globe. Don't let it happen. In the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.